Imagine a world so far away from the sun that sunlight needs more than 5 hours just to reach there. A place where the temperature falls to almost minus 230 degrees Celsius, so cold that if you carried a glass of water there, it would instantly freeze into something harder than ice. And the craziest thing is that 1 year on this world takes 248 Earth years to finish. That means if you were born there, your first birthday still would not have arrived. This is Pluto, the mysterious world that was once called the 9th planet of our solar system. But today, it is no longer included in the official list of planets. And in this video, we will explore its complete story, what Pluto really is, why it became so special, and whether life could ever exist there. So let's begin from the basics. If you have ever looked at the stars in the night sky, then you already know how huge our solar system really is. Around our sun, 8 planets continue moving through space. First comes Mercury, then Venus, then our own Earth, then Mars, followed by Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and finally Neptune. But there was a time when one more name existed in this list: Pluto. It was known as the 9th and the last planet of the solar system. However, in the year 2006, scientists removed Pluto from the list of planets and gave it a new category called a dwarf planet. Now you may be wondering, what exactly happened? How can a full planet suddenly lose its status? So let's understand the story behind it. The year was 1930. A 23-year-old American astronomer named Clyde Tombaugh was working at the Lowell Observatory in Arizona. His job was to take pictures of the night sky and search for something new hidden among the stars. Now you might ask, how do scientists even discover something new in the sky? Back in those days, astronomers used to take photographs of the sky on different nights. Then those images were compared using a special machine. If an object appeared to change its position, it meant that it was not a distant star, but something moving through space, like a planet or an asteroid. Stars are so far away that they appear fixed in one place. But planets are much closer, so they slowly move across the sky. Then on February 18, 1930, Clyde noticed something that shocked the entire scientific world. He saw a tiny point of light changing its position, and it was located far beyond Neptune. He quickly informed the senior scientists, and after several observations and confirmations, the discovery was officially announced to the world on March 13, 1930. Humanity had discovered a brand new planet. Now it was time to give this new world a name. And surprisingly, the name was suggested by an 11-year-old girl from England named Venetia Burney. Her grandfather told her that a new planet had been discovered and asked her what it should be called. She suggested the name Pluto, taken from the Roman god of the underworld. The name felt perfect because this world was extremely dark, distant, and cold, a place where even sunlight could barely reach. And that is how Pluto received its famous name. For the next 76 years, Pluto remained the 9th planet of our solar system. But then came the most interesting part of the story. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union organized a major meeting in Prague where thousands of scientists from around the world gathered together. And during that meeting, a decision was made that would change Pluto's destiny forever. A decision was made that Pluto would no longer be called a planet. Now you might be wondering, why did this happen? To understand that, you first need to know the qualifications required for something to officially be called a planet. The International Astronomical Union created 3 conditions. The first condition is that the object must orbit around the sun. The second condition is that it must have enough mass and gravity to pull itself into a round shape. And the third condition is that it must clear its orbit. That means there should not be many other large objects moving around the same path. Now Pluto easily passes the first 2 conditions because it moves around the sun and it is also round in shape. But it fails the third condition. That is because Pluto exists in a region called the Kuiper Belt, where thousands of other icy objects similar to Pluto are also moving around. In simple words, Pluto never cleared its orbit, and because of that, scientists reclassified it as a dwarf planet. But this decision became extremely controversial. Many people believed it was unfair and that Pluto should still be considered a real planet. Even today, several scientists disagree with this decision and want the rules to be changed. Now let's talk about some incredible facts about Pluto that make it one of the most unique places in our solar system. The first interesting thing is that Pluto is actually very small. If you compare it with Earth, Pluto is even smaller than our moon. Yes, you heard that right. The moon that orbits around Earth is larger than Pluto itself. Pluto's diameter is only about 2,374 kilometers, while our moon's diameter is around 3,475 kilometers. In fact, even if you lined up 6 Plutos together, they still would not become as large as Earth. It is so tiny that if roads existed there, you could probably drive around the entire planet in a single day. The second amazing fact is that Pluto has a heart. Yes, an actual heart-shaped region. In 2015, when NASA's New Horizons spacecraft flew past Pluto and sent high-resolution images back to Earth, scientists were shocked. Because on Pluto's surface, there was a massive heart-shaped area clearly visible. Today, this region is officially called Tombaugh Regio, named after Clyde Tombaugh, the man who discovered Pluto. This giant region is made mostly of frozen nitrogen ice, and it is so huge that 2 entire states the size of Texas could fit inside it. The third strange thing about Pluto is its unusual orbit. Almost all the planets travel around the Sun in a nearly straight and flat path. But Pluto's orbit is tilted and stretched in a very strange way. Its orbit is so unusual that sometimes Pluto actually comes closer to the Sun than Neptune. That means for a few years, Pluto temporarily becomes the 8th closest object to the Sun, while Neptune moves farther away. The last time this happened was between 1969 and 1999. During those years, Pluto was actually closer to the Sun than Neptune. The fourth interesting fact is that Pluto has 5 moons. The biggest one is called Charon, and it is so large that some scientists believe Pluto and Charon should actually be called a double planet system. That is because Charon is almost half the size of Pluto itself. The other 4 smaller moons are Nix, Hydra, Kerberos, and Styx. All of them are tiny and were discovered after 2005. The fifth fascinating thing is that Pluto has mountains made of ice, but not the kind of ice we see on Earth. These mountains are made from frozen nitrogen, methane, and carbon monoxide. The New Horizons mission discovered giant mountains on Pluto that rise more than 3 kilometers high. These mountains are made from water ice that becomes as hard as rock in Pluto's extreme cold temperatures. And between these mountains, giant glaciers slowly move across the surface. But these glaciers are made of nitrogen ice instead of frozen water. It truly is a completely different world from Earth. The sixth amazing fact is that Pluto has an atmosphere. Even though it is very small, Pluto still has a thin atmosphere made mostly of nitrogen, along with small amounts of methane and carbon monoxide. But the most interesting part is that this atmosphere is not stable. When Pluto moves closer to the Sun, the ice on its surface slightly warms up and turns into gas, creating an atmosphere. And when Pluto travels farther away from the Sun, that gas freezes again and falls back onto the surface like snow. It almost feels as if Pluto is breathing. The seventh fascinating thing is Pluto's color. Many people imagine Pluto as white or gray because it is covered in ice. But in reality, Pluto has a reddish-brown color. This happens because of substances called tholins, which are organic compounds. When ultraviolet light from the Sun reacts with methane in Pluto's atmosphere, these tholins are created. They slowly fall onto the surface and give Pluto its dark reddish color. Now comes the biggest question. Could life exist on Pluto? Well, the answer is a little complicated. If we are talking about life like humans, animals, or plants, then the answer is most likely no. Pluto is unbelievably cold, with temperatures reaching almost minus 230 degrees Celsius. No known life form could easily survive in such conditions. There is no liquid water on the surface, which is considered essential for life, and the atmosphere is far too thin for any creature to breathe. But there is one very interesting possibility that excites scientists. Some studies suggest that beneath Pluto's frozen surface, there could be a hidden underground ocean. Yes, an ocean buried deep below the ice. At first, this sounds impossible because Pluto is so cold. But there is science behind this idea. Scientists believe Pluto has a rocky core containing radioactive elements. These elements slowly break down and produce heat over time. That heat may melt some of the underground ice and create liquid water beneath the surface. And if liquid water exists there, then theoretically, tiny microbial life forms could also exist. Even on Earth, there are places deep inside the oceans where sunlight never reaches, yet life still survives. Near underwater volcanic vents, certain bacteria and organisms live entirely using chemical energy instead of sunlight. So if similar conditions exist inside Pluto, then microscopic life may also be possible there. But for now, this is only a theory. To prove it, humans would need to send more missions to Pluto, something that is still extremely difficult. Now let's talk about the New Horizons mission, one of the most exciting space missions in history. This mission launched in January 2006, and it took nearly 9.5 years to finally reach Pluto. Interestingly, when the spacecraft launched, Pluto was still officially called a planet. But by the time it arrived there, Pluto had already been reclassified as a dwarf planet. The spacecraft was launched at an incredible speed of nearly 58,000 kilometers per hour, faster than a bullet. And even at that speed, it still needed almost a decade to reach Pluto. That alone shows how unbelievably far away Pluto really is. Then in July 2015, New Horizons made its closest approach to Pluto. It passed only about 12,500 kilometers away from the surface and collected thousands of images and scientific measurements. And those pictures shocked the entire world. Nobody expected Pluto to look so beautiful or so complex. The images revealed the giant heart-shaped region, massive icy mountains, moving glaciers, and many other features that nobody had ever imagined before. But the most surprising discovery was this. Pluto is geologically active. Things on Pluto are still changing even today. That giant heart-shaped region called Sputnik Planitia, which is made of frozen nitrogen ice, is slowly moving across the surface like a massive glacier flowing in slow motion. Scientists also believe Pluto may have cryovolcanoes, strange volcanoes that erupt ice and water instead of lava. All these discoveries show that Pluto is not a dead frozen world. It is still active and changing. Another interesting thing is that we still know very little about Pluto. The New Horizons mission only performed a flyby. That means the spacecraft simply passed near Pluto. It never stopped there and never entered Pluto's orbit. The reason was simple. Pluto is incredibly far away, and entering its orbit would require a huge amount of fuel that the spacecraft simply did not have. So New Horizons collected as much data as possible while flying past at high speed, and then continued deeper into the Kuiper Belt, where it is still exploring new mysterious objects even today. Now think about this for a moment. Why is Pluto so special? The truth is that Pluto is not just a small frozen ball floating in darkness. It teaches us how diverse and strange our solar system really is. Every planet and every world out there is unique in its own way. Pluto also reminds us that science is always changing. What people believed yesterday may not remain true tomorrow, and what scientists accept today could completely change in the future. It is even possible that Pluto may one day regain its planet status if the scientific definition changes again. Another thing that makes Pluto special is the story behind its discovery. A 23-year-old young astronomer spent months searching the skies before finally discovering it. And then an 11-year-old girl gave it the name that the whole world remembers today. It proves that age does not matter in science. Anyone can achieve something extraordinary with enough curiosity and dedication. Now comes the final question. Will humans ever travel to Pluto? With today's technology, that would be extremely difficult. Pluto is so far away that even the fastest spacecraft ever launched needed almost 9.5 years just to reach it. Sending humans there is almost impossible with current technology. But science is advancing very quickly. Maybe in the next 50 or 100 years, humanity will develop technology powerful enough to reach Pluto. And perhaps one day, humans will stand there and see that giant heart-shaped region with their own eyes.